right, everybody. We're back after a bit of how long was it? 2 weeks? 2 weeks, I think. 3 weeks. I don't know.
It's been ages.
But we're back. Paul Russo, Nick Felice, fresh takes with Russo and Felice. I am Paul Russo. Across from me, as always, man, myth, the legend himself, Nick Felice. Nick, how you doing? Good to see that we're in warmer times. You're without mittens. You're without a hat.
Yep. Yeah. You know, you always say I'm across from you. Maybe I'll sit in one of these different spots one of these days.
Please don't.
Mix it up a little bit. But I was just telling Paul right before we came on air, how come you never say the date? Every other podcast I see on this network says the date. And
well,
you
clearly you don't watch every podcast then.
Yeah, I catch them all and I hear the date. You just forget about it, man. People, they're listening to this. They're wondering what day it is, man. Today is April 12th, 2022, and we're coming at you live from North Street. What street are we on?
North Park.
Hugo Street.
North Park.
Well, we're coming at you live in downtown Seneca Falls. Home of the Seneca Falls It's a Wonderful Life 5K.
We're big fan of how you petered out there.
Yeah. And, so to answer your question, I think you asked me a question.
Kind of, I suppose. Happy. I'm more or less happy about the weather.
Yeah.
Kind of turning.
Well, if you ask me how I was doing, I'll say I am doing well, Paul. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. We're here. Baseball's back. It's pretty much the only thing we're talking about, so should be a good one. Looking forward to it.
Are we forgetting about what happened the first week, or?
Well, I mean, we're previewing it, so the season, so we can discuss things that have happened and, have some fun with it.
Got Jackie Robinson Day coming up this year?
Yep, Saturday. Right?
Friday.
No, Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably will be Saturday for some teams, assuming. So
yeah, a lot going on with the Yankees right now with Aaron Judge.
Well, I mean, he gave him the deadline. They lowballed him, which is what all GMs do. So, I mean, it's what happened with Marte last year with the Marlins. They lowballed him. He said no, and they gave him quote-unquote justifiable reason to trade him away, and there they are.
Why can't you just be like the Pirates owner, man? He's so, generous. And
stop.
He just hands out $70 million like it's nothing.
We will get to that, sort of.
Man, he's such a good man.
In a way.
But
yeah,
I've enjoyed it. It's definitely good to be back. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a 1 month MLB.TV subscriber.
Nice. That's right.
Got the free preview, so
we watched some Apple TV Plus baseball together.
I will say Apple TV Plus. I'm new to it. My brother bought it for the house, and Ted Lasso might be the greatest comedy show I've ever seen. It is written so well. I highly recommend it. I think Apple Plus is $5 a month. So I highly recommend watching Ted Lasso. Feel good comedy. I'm not even done with season 2 yet. Season 1 though was awesome, and I as much as I love sports, not a huge soccer guy, but man was that good. I highly recommend that. That is one of the best comedy shows I've ever seen.
Speaking of sports, you been anywhere this week? Bit of a quietish week around, locally speaking.
Yes.
Well, at least local, like in the area.
I went to Hobart Lacrosse on Saturday.
Big win for the Statesmen.
Yeah, they ended a 5-game losing streak against Wagner. I think they're 8-0 now all time against Wagner. I am going to a big game this Saturday. Penn Yan boys lacrosse at Canandaigua.
Wow. Yeah. We'll come back to that at the end of the show.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'll be there, and it should be a good one.
We'll come back to that at the end of the show.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
So, all right. Let's jump into it. Baseball, shall we? The 2022 season is underway. MLB is back after the lockout. Thought that we wouldn't be seeing baseball until June or July, in all honesty. But, hey, here we are. We got it. Everything's in motion. Everything is swinging. Didn't mean for the pun to happen there, but it's been, Nick, we as you mentioned, we are off air. We are officially, 4 days in, 5 days in So, but you can never really get a good gauge on the first series, no matter what, too much anyway. Especially this year, as I mentioned, with the lockout, shortened spring training. You're going to probably see the better part of this first month, pretty much until the end of April. Guys kind of getting figured out. I know I mentioned this to a couple of the guys here, like Nate and Kyle.
And I love your new show.
It was, oh, thank you. It was, I don't think I had seen, even on opening weekend, that many starters get pulled before the 5th. For one reason or another. I mean, the one that really popped to my mind was Shane Bieber for Cleveland. He only went for, and I think it was a third technically. And I'm like, looking at him, like, and even his pitch count was pretty low. And kind of asked a friend of mine, Nick Tabar, like, hey, was there something hurt with him? Like, because obviously he's out in Cleveland anyways, out in Ohio, watching the game, better access to it. He goes, no, he was fine. So I think you're seeing more really the precautionary stuff, really the first couple times through the rotation. That being said, it's going to be interesting to kind of see the taxing that gets done to bullpens here. I think you already kind of are seeing it a little bit. I think a good example of that would have been the Mets against the Nationals on Sunday, the game that they dropped. Buck Showalter just pretty much came out and said, hey, need to get different arms in there. I can't throw the same pretty much 4 guys for 2 innings each day, back to back, on not when they're not back to being 100% built wise. Now, obviously health wise they could be 100%, but workload wise they might not be. And I know it's something I saw you smirk a little bit when I said that a little bit, right? But look, that being said, it's early. They did have a lot of these players went to their own, not individual workouts, but group workouts. But the same token, you don't have the access to the trainers and health staff, and really, to be fair, some equipment that you do need to get yourself prepped as if it was going to be a normal season. That's why I think really this first part of the month is going to be first month of the season is going to be one where you just see these pitchers and scores probably get a little bit warped. It was weird. You saw some scores on Saturday completely bust the overs on some, and then Sunday Sunday into Monday you had a run of I think 9 straight games go under. So yeah, I mean it's just different stuff I think to kind of keep an eye on there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely noticeable in the beginning part here because of the shortened spring training. Well, I didn't even really notice spring training was so short this year. And, it's going to be interesting to look at this, Paul, I think, is the bullpens, like you said. Not now, because they're going to be using them. I want to see how these guys, last at the end of this season after pitching so much here at the beginning. So, yeah, that's definitely an issue right now, but that's expected because of they're just not ready. Like, this is still spring training in some people's, arms because, their arms are not ready for the season and they're not going to be pitching as much. So you're going to see a lot of bullpens do a lot of work here in April. So I'm really intrigued to see how they look at a few months from now, how bullpens, ERAs they're going to look at and, just see if people are getting overworked this year because of, there ain't no 7-inning games anymore,
Mm-hmm.
so there's going to be a lot of innings to be thrown that aren't going to be the starters at the start here. So, great first week, I thought, just to be back. Definitely an interesting opening day because there was only like 7 games or a few postponements. Mm-hmm. Most of the teams didn't even play on Thursday, so it was like Friday.
Right, it was pretty much just the West Coast teams. If you were scheduled Thursday, ended up getting them in.
Yeah, so it was an interesting opening day. Didn't give the opening day feels that it usually does, and I think with the fact that the Masters started that day with not just that it was going on, the fact that the one baseball game that was televised got pushed to ESPN2. Mm-hmm. It's just like I'm so used to.
I also something that ESPN messed up in the scheduling, by the way, which is why I was on ESPN2, was because they forgot they had to broadcast it.
Yeah. It doesn't have the feel like on opening day. ESPN carries like 3 games, from 1 all the way to 10, 1 o'clock in the morning. They're carrying baseball on opening day, so it just didn't have the same feel to it. But it was still good to be back. Obviously, we're going to be saying the whole year it's going to be like he said it's like day 5 in the MLB season, but it really should be day 12 because we're a week behind. But enjoying it. Byron Buxton, early MVP candidate, maybe. He's hitting some home runs. Maybe that guy for Cleveland there.
Ahmed Rosario?
No.
Oh, Steve Kwan?
Kwan. Guy's got on 15 times in the first 4 games. Maybe he's early.
Kwan Sanity?
Is he a rookie? I guess.
Yes.
I guess so, because I've not heard of him. So
Kwan Sanity.
Yeah. Like you said, though, it's only first series. It's hard to judge anything in the first series, and that goes with any year. And, it's a long season. Baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. So, got a lot of big days coming up. Got Jackie Robinson Day. I mean, there's so many good days throughout the year. All-Star break, 4th of July, Memorial Day. A lot of good days throughout the MLB season. I'm looking forward to it. Just glad to be back. But the Yankees with Aaron Judge, it's going to be a mess this year, isn't it?
Well, we'll see. Let's kind of get into a little bit of that right now. This offseason, you had some moves happen before the lockout and then obviously after.
Trades on opening day, too.
Yeah, more or less. But those are trades that you do usually see kind of towards the end of spring training. Just that obviously this is the way everything kind of had to wrap up fairly quickly this year happened. But nothing too major. A lot of it was just kind of depth stuff in a way. But that being said, let's kind of think about this, right? Javi Baez signs with Detroit, right? All this these ones kind of happened right before the lockout happened. So Baez signs with Detroit. You have Eduardo Rodriguez sign with Detroit, and people kind of think that they're the ones that might be making the moves, right? Kind of looking like an interesting spot potentially for the future. And then kind of. You had the first rumblings of the universal DH kind of happening, which is where you kind of see, like the Jorge Soler deal with Miami happen. But kind of quieted out fairly quickly before the lockout kind of happened. Kind of had a run of a couple of days where you had guys, like I said, Baez kind of leading the charge before the deadline, or the lockout rather. So that happens, quiets out. Kind of expected. Post-lockout, obviously Freeman kind of headlines it at that point, signing with the Dodgers. Scherzer signing with the Mets, big. I think that was pre-lockout, wasn't it?
Scherzer was before.
So, you have that.
Need DeGrom on the field.
Right. We'll get to that as well. Correa, late signee with the Twins, all things considered, an interesting one. Trevor Story signs with the Red Sox. And this is where you're right. I mean, you start seeing the Yankees kind of come into play with Rizzo, to sign him back, and the Judge Chalks more or less falling through. I mean, they lowballed him. The Yankees pretty much missed out.
No.
The Yankees pretty much missed out on everybody.
Do you think he deserved the money? Has he done it?
I don't know if any of these players are worth.
Oh yeah, I get you.
Are worth that money.
Do you think he deserves to be the highest paid Yankee?
Yeah.
Well, other than Cole.
Yeah, he should be the highest paid Yankee. He should probably be paid more than Cole. Garrett Cole doesn't have his own sections of stands in the stadium, right? And look, I mean, this is where, in my mind, Hal Steinbrenner does not have the same edge as obviously his dad or even his brother Hank had. I don't know what's happened to Cashman. I mean, this was a guy who used to pretty much grab players by the tail and drag them to New York. And now he's kind of just like, we still are paying, the most per whatever. And that's all fine and well, but, you haven't had the results to show that, right? I mean, I'm realistic. I don't expect the Yankees to do what they did in between 2008 and 2009 at this point, where you go out, you get Sabathia, you get Burnett, you get Teixeira, you get Swisher, you get, at the time, what was going to be a good one in Xavier Nady. I don't expect that anymore. That's just not the way baseball as a whole more or less operates. I mean, usually you get that one big one, right? Like the Twins did with Correa, for example. Like the Tigers did with Baez. I think the only one you could probably make the case for this year might have been like the Mets, who were able to get Scherzer. And then, I mean, I guess if you want to count Starling Marte, you can. Marte to me is maybe the best pure center fielder in the game. I think you can make the case for other players being better than him that play the position, but I think he's the best pure center fielder in the game. So maybe in the Mets, I mean, they signed two big fish, I suppose, in that sense. Haven't really mentioned the Rangers. I think that's kind of because, well, it's the Rangers. We'll really see where that plays out more or less next year with obviously the 10-year deal with Seager. Not as long, but I think the deal with Simeon's like 5 years, or 5 years technically, with like 3 options tagged along the line, just where it could be 7 years, like just crazy. Again, a team with like no pitching though. I mean, their ace this year is John Gray, which is a really just weird mind pretzel, right? I mean, Chris Bryant with Colorado, it's all pretty much these just like one splash guys, and that's it. But sure, I guess you make the case, right? I mean, there are a ton of trades really in the off season. The Yankees obviously made a big one in a way, right? Trade away Gary, but it cost Gio, and we were able to get Carter Falafa, who we wanted at the deadline last year, but along with it's Josh Donaldson, who admittedly has done really well so far the first 5 games of the year now, but it's quite a hefty contract for a guy who's 37, 38.
Yeah.
You know, the Mariners going ahead and getting Jesse Winker. You had to get Eugenio Suarez more or less to make the deal done, but I think that's a contract that you're kind of willing to eat because Suarez, when he's on, is still a very good hitter. Kind of probably fills your role in a way at third / DH / can play short in a pinch. So, and look, the Mariners also, again, but this is another scenario where it's just one more or less big splash. I mean, with Robbie Ray. So it's a tough deal, I guess, going back to the broader point of the Yankees, where these off seasons where you just sign the 3 biggest fish just aren't happening anymore. And I know people kind of associate the Yankees with that, but look, I mean, the Red Sox were kind of doing it at the same time. I mean, you think back to the couple years before with Josh Beckett, and then, you know, really the offseason next where they went out and got Adrian Gonzalez and Hanley Ramirez, and that kind of backfired in a way. But
Carl Crawford.
Yeah, Carl Crawford. I forgot about Carl Crawford in there, as probably most people have at this point. So, yeah, I think I don't know if it necessarily sours what Judge. I think Judge. I give Judge a lot of credit. He's done a really fantastic job of usually blocking out the business side of baseball, as I'll call it. I mean, look, I think, you know, obviously we talked about it on a podcast before. Like, I've never been a Jeter guy. But look, as Yankee fans, and I'll throw myself in here in the we part, we are always looking for that next Derek Jeter, or who's going to be the better version of it, right? Judge is that. I mean, we've tried, people forced it on Brett Gardner, and he more or less rejected it. Judge, playing-wise, is on par, if not better than Jeter, to be honest. I personally have a hard time believing that he may walk, but I think it's certainly a possibility. I mean, Anthony Rizzo said it best to Aaron Judge, allegedly. Like, there is no loyalty anymore. I mean, what business do you have showing loyalty to your team if they're not going to show loyalty to you? So that's more or less always. I guess it's been more or less the problem. It's always been the thing in sports, is that it's been amplified over the course of, I guess, really the building up the past 25 years or so. So I don't know. Do want to shout out because you brought up Bob Nutting and your Pirates and whatever. But the past year, I think people on the regular listeners of the podcast know I kind of bang the drum for the Pirates offense. I love that position player lineup that they do have. I think it's solid. And unfortunately, we go back to always the pitching with them. That being said,
could they win the International League?
Yes. That being said, excellent job by the front office, not Bob Nutting, getting a very good deal done with Ke'Bryan Hayes. Probably deserves a little bit more money.
Wander Franco deal-esque?
Yeah, except Wander's getting a bit more money. Ke'Bryan, it's what, 8 years, $70 million? So, to me, it really should be probably, if you're going to do that, 8 years, $80 million, or 8 years, $100 million. But you're just not going to see that out of the Pirates. But I will give Ke'Bryan credit. I think he's trying to be very team friendly. He is to me, and the beauty about the Pirates, and I know what you're going to say. I think they have two guys who are building blocks in of themselves that you can do for a single team with him and Brian Reynolds. I don't know if Brian Reynolds is going to be there come the end of July, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I think that's been about the worst kept secret in baseball, that they've been actively shopping him since even before the lockout and during the lockout, which sucks. But the positive here is they have a guy that they can certainly well beyond build around, in my opinion. So, anyway.
Hayes is the highest paid contract in Pirates history. Do you know who he passed?
Oh, really?
Highest paid in Pirates history. Do you know who he beat? Who he passed?
So I'm trying to think of a couple different ways we could go here with this. The obvious play would be somebody not dumb in the sense I would mean it actually dumb, would be like, Andy Van Slyke or somebody along those lines. That being said, they've had a couple of guys along the way that I could certainly see, say maybe a Jason Kendall, for example. But I don't think he signed a deal after his rookie deal with Pittsburgh. A couple other pitchers kind of possibly popped to mind. A couple other position players. I'm gonna go backdoor on this. I'm gonna go Josh Harrison.
Never second guess yourself. It was Jason Kendall.
Was it really? I didn't think he signed the rookie, past the rookie deal with them.
I forgot it was. It was like $60 million. I forget how many years, but it was Jason Kendall.
Yeah, but Jason, and hopefully, no slight to Jason Kendall if you're an active listener and watcher, but Jason Kendall was by far, to me, who you could have built around. It's very actually oddly Ke'Bryan Hayes-esque. Hopefully,
and he's one of your favorite players.
Yes, Jason Kendall, hugely underrated.
Jason Giambi's your favorite,
right?
Though.
But Jason Kendall, hugely underrated, by the way. Mark's up there with a lot of Hall of Fame catchers and statistics, just that people turn the blind eye. Anyway, yeah, I mean, Jason Kendall obviously, unfortunately, gets hurt more or less, and kind of he doesn't fall off the radar, but he was never the same quite player. Hopefully, that doesn't happen with Ke'Bryan Hayes. But yeah, I mean, the Pirates could have a really good left side of that infield coming up here within the next year and a half. So with O'Neal Cruz, probably should be at the big league level. But yeah, service time is good as service time. So anyway, Nick, throw it over to you. What your thoughts on the offseason moves, obviously, and offer your thoughts too, because I mean, you posed a really great question about Judge. So I don't know what your thoughts are exactly. I know me and you do, and this is the fun part about discussing baseball. We share for as much as we have a similar plane of thinking a lot of times with baseball, a lot of times the front office stuff like this, we kind of go completely different directions.
I'll keep you on the screen for a second.
Oh, sure.
Like I control that, but
fair enough.
Freddie Freeman, do you think
I'll allow it?
Freddie Freeman, do you think that was a shot at the Braves? Going right to the Dodgers.
Which one? Oh, going to the Dodgers.
Because he's upset that they didn't tell him about Matt Olson.
No, I think the way these contracts are now, because the Olson deal happens, and Freeman signs, I think, within the next 36 hours after that. I mean, it was certainly within the next 2 days. Usually at that point, you're pretty much are in the final stretch anyway of what you're doing. That being said, look, stranger things have happened. Maybe he wasn't as close to signing maybe with the Dodgers as we thought. But I have a hard time fully believing that he was caught blindsided by it. Just the way things operate behind the scenes.
I'll say I was shocked from a couple offseason moves. I think the Carlos Correa one definitely.
Yeah, but that's a pretty short-term deal though.
Yeah. He's just trying to, build his name a little bit in Minnesota this year, and they should have a decent team.
Yeah.
I already mentioned
a lot of it for
Byron
them goes
Buxton.
to health. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it's that as well. That was pretty shocking to me, the Carlos Correa one, just going to Minnesota. But, the Freeman one does not shock me. The Dodgers always go out and get this big name all the time. And what do they have? They just have a bubble championship since 1988. So, I mean, it was an interesting offseason, that's for sure. Having the big layoff, having your, like you said, your pre-lockout signings and then your after-lockout signings. So, definitely not one of my favorite off seasons. As a Pirates fan, I don't get too excited about the MLB off season until like the end of January, usually, because we get the scraps. But it was a good one. I did not enjoy it, but it was not your typical off season. I'll just say on that. I don't really have much to offer on the off season side of things, but shocked about Carlos Correa. That's for sure. But I think the Mariners did a good job.
You know who I'm surprised the Pirates didn't sign? Johnny Cueto.
He's still a free agent, isn't he?
Signed with the White Sox.
Oh, yeah.
Literally signed, I think, opening day with the White Sox. It's just a classic Pirate veteran arm to bring in, though, and kind of help the youngsters along. I was surprised they didn't do it.
You were so close, Paul, but this year is Jose Quintana.
True. Forgot about Jose.
Started the home opener today. Pitched all right, I guess. We lost 2-1.
Okay.
Suzuki had 2 home runs.
I did see that. Saya.
But Reynolds had the other home run.
Yeah. Did he put that in the Allegheny?
No.
It looked like it was like...
I think it's center field.
All right. Usually we go through division by division, team by team, and we're going to switch it up this year. We're going to obviously go division by division, maybe not quite team by team. The NL West is an interesting spot this year. We'll start out west and work east this year. I think the money, the house favorite still is the Dodgers, and justifiably so, I think, still at this point. That being said, I still like what the Giants kind of have going. I know they lost Kevin Gossman to free agency, signed with Toronto. But the core of that team is still there.
You like Webb?
Buster, yeah, I do like Logan Webb. Buster Posey obviously retires. You'll miss that veteran presence. But you still have a guy, Brandon Bell, obviously is a great veteran presence. Brendan Crawford's still there as well. So, not.
They still got the old man on the ball boys?
Yes, which I love. So, obviously the Padres, I think with them, that's the biggest health question mark in the MLB overall. In theory, if they are healthy and 100% all year, they would be the runaway favorites in my mind for the NL West. But fact of the matter is, even off the jump, they aren't. Tatis is on the 60-day IL right off the bat. They already are having pitching injury problems. Blake Snell.
They did get a closer, though.
Yes. Snell they don't think is going to go on the IL, but he's going to miss a start. The way it sounds on Friday, and they're call up Mackenzie Gore, but yeah, like I said, if they were healthy, without a doubt, run away. But they just aren't, as usual. And then obviously, I think the runaway favorites are the basement with the Diamondbacks and Rockies. The Rockies are an interesting team. I don't know what to make of whatever their game plan is. You let Story walk, but you sign Chris Bryant.
They are the bottom, but I think hands above.
It's an interesting thing because I don't know what to make of them. I don't know what to make of the Diamondbacks either. the Diamondbacks at least are kind of showing that they're planning more for the future at this point rather than what the Rockies are doing, which is who
National
knows?
Beer Day.
True, Seth Beer. Shout out Seth Beer.
That was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Do you have any thoughts for the NL West?
It is Dodgers to lose, as it is every year. Don't matter what kind of team they have on. That's just the expectations they have as a organization. And be interesting like you said, how the Giants do without Buster Posey.
Right.
But never going to believe San Diego until they do it. So in my opinion, this is Giants, Dodgers, and you can't go wrong with the Dodgers. That's for sure.
AL West, I think this is a toss-up between really three teams in a weird way.
3?
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see who the third is.
So the Astros are still really good. Verlander signs back. You still have pretty much the young pitching group out there with Garcia. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. He's pitching tonight.
Valdez?
Yes, thank you. Framber. Their bullpen is still fairly stacked overall. I mean, that's, to me, maybe one of the best bullpens going, if not the best. I'm a big Ryan Presley fan, which probably will paint a lot of Yankee fans out there, but I like Ryan Presley.
He's good.
Yeah. And obviously their offense, buzzers or not, is still really good. I mean,
you were over the other night when they were crushing the ball.
Yeah. So, obviously them. I think the other darling at the moment, and justifiably so, and this is one of the teams in my 3, are the Mariners. This is probably the most complete team that they've had really since maybe 2001, in all honesty, when they had the record year.
Playoff drought.
I think they do end it this year. I don't know if it comes via division or wild card, but I think they do end it this year. Obviously, that offense, and it's a young-led offense, but they play really well, right? They locked up J.P. Crawford long-term. You have guys like Ty France who are good. Obviously, Julio Rodriguez is up you hope for the whole year. Obviously, I'm guessing he's going to have some rookie blues along the way somewhere. You hope Kelnick ends up more or less not having a deeper slump in a sophomore season. Obviously, I mentioned, right, they get Jesse Winker. That's big. And then obviously the pitching. The pitching's pretty good for them. Fairly young-ish and still maybe unproven bullpen overall, but that's okay. I think that's something you can work through, and Scott Service is a really good manager for that. My surprise team, this is going to stun people who listen regularly about this, is the Angels.
I thought you were about to say Athletics.
No. The Angels have something really weird, and look, we're only 5 days into this thing, but they got something interesting brewing at the moment.
Mike Trout.
Trout, yeah, obviously you know what he can do, but Ohtani looks good, as usual. But yeah, look, if you can get Mike Lorenzen to do what he did yesterday, that's really, I mean, that you'll take a 15 and 11 year hypothetically out of that, something like that, right? Where it's just crazy like that. So that's that. The Rangers, obviously that lineup's really good, but their pitching is so all over the place. I don't know what to make of it. And even within that lineup, there's some question marks. I mean, that's a young lineup outside of those veterans that you signed with, like, for instance, Seager and Simeon. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I know they brought in Cole Calhoun. Decent bat. Nothing wrong with it, but nothing that I think you're necessarily scared of as a big league pitcher. And then the A's are in a true sell-off mode if they've ever had one. Frankie Montas, I think, is going to end up being a Padre or a White Sox. I don't know what the hell. But take your pick out of the teams that have been rumored.
2-dog race.
Okay.
I'm not going 3. Because you mentioned the Rangers with their struggles of pitching. I still think the Angels are going to struggle with pitching, and I think it's going to set them back. So, in my opinion, 2-dog race, same thing here. I like the Mariners here, but you can't bet against the Astros right now. So, that's my thoughts on the West.
All right. Central, NL. Start there. It's weird. I don't like putting the Pirates outright in the basement, and in a weird sense, I think this division is going to really just beat up on each other again. I don't think the Cubs are necessarily as bad as people make them out to be. But the same token, I don't think they're all that good. You know what I mean? They're very much.
Well, I know what you mean.
Well, you'll understand this the way I'm going to phrase it, and I don't think maybe a ton of people maybe will. They remind me a lot of like that 2009 and 10 team where it's like, yeah, you guys are good, but you aren't good. Like when they had like Soriano running around out there, like that Lou Piniella years of managing. Like like I said, I don't think they finish basement, but I don't think they win the division either. They're kind of I think they're the hardest team to fully pinpoint where they'll actually go. You know, that being said, the Pirates have the lineup that, like I said, I think to me they match up with anybody in that division. It's just that the pitching is going to hold them back. You know, the Cardinals lineup, big fan of it. Obviously, that's, again, a lineup that you could probably, in that sense, really put toe-to-toe with anybody in the league. Their pitching, I like, but boy, when they run out of gas pitching-wise, they get in trouble quick. And it's a weird situation. Obviously, with them firing Schilt at the end of last year, I don't know what to make heads or tails of that long-term-wise this year. The Reds, they sell off, but, like, they've been competitive the first 5 days. Like, I don't know what to make of that. And the Brewers were in dogfight all weekend against the Cubs. So, like, the NL Central to me is a very big question mark. I can't make heads or tails of it for the most part. Like I said, I think, you know, like, I want to lean Brewers, but, like, I think it could be really any one of the teams in a weird scenario.
If you put the Brewers pitching staff with the Cardinals lineup, you got a super team.
Oh, it'd be, yeah. I mean,
that's the question mark. Cardinals is pitching, Brewers is hitting.
I know the Brewers in a dogfight right now with Baltimore. So, like, what's that tell you?
Cubs, I think, are just, you know, they're 3-1 or something like that right now.
Yeah.
They're not that good. They're terrible. They're going to be terrible this year.
Okay.
I think them and the Reds and the Pirates, as much as I'd love to see the Pirates win, I think all three are going to be terrible. And, yeah, because the Cubs, you know, they sold a lot of their players last year, and the Reds are selling a lot of – they sold Winker this offseason. So, Reds got good pitching, though. Good pitching. Trevor – what's his name? Trevor?
Yeah.
I don't know. Malley. Hunter Green looked good for a start. So, you know, I like the Reds pitching. Are they going to get – I think you probably just asked me a question. Are they going to get fans at the game? Well, that's always a problem, Cincinnati, Paul. I don't know what
I can't believe that the owner said that today, by the way.
What did he say?
Oh, you don't know? He pretty much said, like, if you want us to spend money, we'll have to move the team. Which, I mean, is just the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
It's just a coincidence, yeah, because Reds, if you watch a Reds game in the middle of August and they're not in it, you'll probably be the only one there. They struggle. And it's just, you know, it's tough because you got fan bases like the Reds and the Pirates, because I follow this division really well, and it's just it sucks to see those two teams not have fans, because those are two original MLB teams. And then you got the Cubs, Brewers, and Cardinals, arguably three of the greatest fan bases in baseball, if you might agree with me. Those three places are sold out almost every game. So those are three great fan bases. Hate them all. But what are you going to do? That's just the stats.
What are you going to do?
So, but to answer your question, Paul, I think you asked me a question.
Yeah.
Cardinals.
Somewhere along the line.
Cardinals division to lose here.
All right. The AL Central.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm leaning for sure White Sox here. It's kind of more or less out of principle.
This is a toss-up in my mind.
But yeah, to me in that division, nobody's actually like that bad this year. No. We all kind of thought Cleveland might have been on that backwards trend, but like they're actually not that bad.
They won today?
I think so. The Royals are kind of the pinpoint like dark horse darlings in the league this year. Be interesting to kind of see what happens with that. Obviously, we mentioned Minnesota, right? Signing Correa, made some deals, kind of try and help bolster that starting rotation a little bit with Paddock coming over, but it cost you probably your best reliever in Rogers. Obviously, really probably is your best reliever in Rogers. But you mentioned, right, Buxton. I mean, Buxton when he's healthy, he's really freaking good. So, be interesting to kind of see with them. Detroit, obviously, they're bringing the future up quick, and they're kind of showing out already. It's interesting to kind of see. So, like I said, I'm leaning White Sox, but I could feasibly see maybe any one of the five actually doing it.
I can't bet on the White Sox.
Fair enough. I don't blame you. I mean, I don't blame you.
This is a toss-up, but the team I like. I'm gonna go.
Do.
I'm just gonna do it for the show.
He's doing it for the memes.
Going with the Tigers. I'm going with the Tigers this year, I think. With who's the manager?
AJ Hinch.
AJ Hinch, yes. Really good manager.
He actually
division,
is. Like I think people kind of forget that swept up in the controversy. Like he is actually a really good.
I don't know if baseball's ever seen a division that's had this good of managers in the division. You're talking about 5 of the best to manage the game in this division.
Well, obviously Francona and Hinch. I'm not a big La Russa guy. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
La Russa really gets saved by recency bias.
Mike Matheny, not bad.
No, I think he got the short end of the stick in St. Louis, to be honest.
And Rocco Baldelli was a good hitter.
Yeah. He's new age. He's part of that front office mix-in of management, but yeah.
Okay, it's not Lou Piniella and Bobby Cox, but, you know.
Well, I don't think either of them were exactly that great of managers either for what they were, but continue.
They were good with the umpires.
Depends what you mean by good with the umpires.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tigers. Not really feeling the Tigers pick, but I like the Javi Baez pick up.
I don't hate it, though. You know what I mean?
They got a lot of nice young players.
Yeah.
They've been rebuilding for so long now. And they got a good manager. And Miggy is there. And who knows? You know, it would be a hell of a story if Miggy did win another World Series because...
As part of breaking MLB news around here, breaking MLB news, Juan Soto hit his 100th career home run.
Really?
Yep.
Not going to bring up Albert Pujols' 680th?
He did have that, yes.
Yeah, 100th career home run. I didn't know we were celebrating that as well. But I'm picking Tigers. Pitching's definitely interesting because, you know, it's young. They did bring in Eduardo Rodriguez. So we'll see. You know,
speaking of
toss-up here.
Speaking of guys from the East, NL East, a lot of bigger dogs in here. But, again, a division where I could see feasibly each team kind of having a route to win the division at the very least. Obviously, the Braves, defending champs, lose Freeman, but bring in, you know, Matt Olson, which is not a bad trade-off, admittedly. Obviously, the Mets, right? Scherzer, Marte, trade for Bassett and Kana, more or less like Conforto walk, and it's looking like you're pretty good right now. Probably need to help the bullpen a little bit, but I mean, if that's your only problem, arms are available, so you at least got that going for you. Other than that, obviously the Phillies signed Schwarber, more or less be your pseudo fourth outfielder, and in DH. Castellanos goes to Philly.
That
offense, pretty much the slugfest offense if I've ever seen it. Yep. So they have that. Pitching wise, they're pretty decent in the grand scheme of things. The Nationals probably are the basement team in my mind, but even then, like, I'm not completely out on them. Obviously, Juan Soto helps, and Nelson Cruz is good. And guess what? Josh Bell is playing out of his mind the past 6 months. Well, 6 baseball months anyway. So I don't think everything is necessarily lost in Washington. But again, I think their pitching is probably where they're going to be failed. And then the Marlins are pretty solid all around. I don't think they really excel in pitching or hitting. I think they're going to be a probably middle-of-the-road team in this division, which is an interesting thing being said about a team that usually we do write off fairly quickly. But that being said, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the Mets are the best team in the New York City metropolitan area, and they're probably, I think, to me, the surefire pick for the East in the NL East this year.
I think if they get DeGrom, there's no one stopping the Mets with that rotation they have. Chris Bassett, very underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Max Scherzer, we know he's he's older, but no one's stopping the Mets right now. The Braves, definitely huge. Not saying Matt Olson's not good, but it's definitely a downgrade from Freddie.
It's not that much of a downgrade, though.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Look, what Freeman wanted, we should have someone we discussed before jumping into this, but what Freeman wanted, this is part where I wish some Yankee fans did have a kind of a grasp of this. What Freeman wanted, people do know he's like in his early 30s, right? Like, he has been in the league a decade now. More than a decade, I guess, technically 11 years, but you could have gotten, that's why I'm perfectly fine with the Yankees signing Rizzo for 3 years. It's the same average money that they'd be spending on Freeman, but him and Rizzo are the same age, and you get out of that deal before Rizzo, and in this case Freeman, would have been turning 35, 36. So I don't hate it. And Olsen is younger than those two, and to be honest with you, I don't think we've seen Olsen at his peak. Olsen's really good. I think people kind of sleep on how good of a defender he is. Gets on base. He doesn't strike out. Pretty much, in my mind, I think peak-wise he might be better than Freeman.
Yeah,
and you locked him up for cheaper. That's the key part in that, too.
He's not bad. I might have to watch Moneyball again to see how good he is. But
he's not in Moneyball.
But yeah, I mean, definitely a loss for the Braves. I mean, he was their guy in Atlanta. So, I mean, chemistry, we'll see how that goes. I mean, not saying Matt Olson's like a cancer to a team, but, chemistry is a huge deal. So, we'll see how that does.
Well, allegedly, Freeman wasn't as big in the Braves clubhouse as we may have thought. So,
yes, he might show his true colors there. You're right. Yeah. So, we'll see. I'm intrigued to see how the Braves do this year.
I think they'll be fine overall.
It's a tough division.
Yeah.
Phillies are getting better, but the Phillies have been so mediocre of late.
Yeah.
They have one of the longest playoff droughts. I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
They haven't been in a long time.
2010?
Yeah, 10 years, something like that now.
12. Well, we'll be 12 this year if they don't make it.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you're Philadelphia. So, interesting to see if they can end their playoff drought, because that's a pretty long playoff drought. I mean, we're not talking Mariners here. We're not talking Sacramento Kings.
That being said, though, I mean, you are right, though. I mean, a team like Philly, which tends to be a big spender, they're not that great. Kind of I think it might remind some Philly fans of kind of that pre-Charlie Manuel years / Larry Bowa, I guess, where they kind of were stuck in no man's land.
I think it's a big opportunity for these other teams because once the Mets get healthy, if they do get healthy at all this year.
I mean, they might be healthy enough right now. That's the wild part about it. I mean, obviously, DeGrom, you want DeGrom on the mound, but
But this is the Mets.
Yeah.
The most underachieving franchise in maybe professional sports.
Ooh. I mean, they're up there. I don't know about the most underachieving.
We don't have time to think about who the most is, but they're up there.
That's okay. I already know who it is. The Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that's true. But
I didn't need time to think.
I am picking the Mets still to win this season.
So am I. Lastly, the AL East. the only certainty to me in this division is Baltimore in the basement. Other than that, like people made me laugh. Like, oh, the Rays are selling off. I'm like, yeah, like the Rays do this every year. Why are you falling for the Rays trick?
Meadows was a nice pickup to the Tigers,
right?
too.
I mean, forget about that through the shuffle of everything. Right? Is that? But yeah, I mean, like the Tampa's still going to be good. Obviously, Toronto, Boston, and the Yankees. They're all four of them are going to be good to some degree, and I think those four are going to be up on each other. That's why when you look at, say, the over/under win totals for them in the sports books, you know, like they had, I can't remember if it was the Yankees or Boston at 92.5. I'm just like, oh, that one's under, but they had the other one at like 87.5. Excuse me, and I was like, oh, over, because I don't see a way that many of these teams kind of escape from each other, right? I mean, like the Yankees are in the middle of a 4-game series with Toronto, for example, coming off the heels of 3 with Boston. And then, look, I know that's how they usually kind of structure the first couple of series anyway, as you're in division, but rarely do you see the 4-game series involved in the first 2. And, you know, I think this is going to sit in the back of heads for some. This is the last year that we get 19 games against your in-division rivals moving forward. So, I don't think it's going to play maybe as big a role as some people think, but I think that kind of sits in the back of players' heads potentially, right? Where, you know, this is the last year you get to really, say, hypothetically, just beat up on your rival. So, and look, the AL East the past couple of years has had the tendency of just beating up on each other.
I mean, we saw some teams go
and
17-2.
And all those teams, right, are just built fairly similar in nature. The only one that's different from the other is Tampa. They are about as close to being true Moneyball as you can be at this point. I mean, they're still doing the starter method every 5th to 6th day. You know, it's to the point where I think people are just like, oh, Randy Rosarina. I'm like, yeah, he's still batting like 295. Like, how do you forget about him? Like, but look, I think those guys are going to get lost in the shuffle a little bit this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they came out on top in the end. It's just the way they are. Like I said, I mean, the Toronto, Boston, the Yankees, they're all built like each other anyway. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how those three kind of fight it out.
Obviously, I think Toronto is this year's sexy pick for the World Series. A lot of people
a lot of people are on them.
And I think, you know, sure, they lost to Cy Young and Robbie Ray, but, you know, Jose Barrios,
yep.
You're right. I'm a big Ryu fan from the Dodgers. And, you know, that guy who pitched last night, Manoah, against the Yankees, I think they have enough pitching. We already know what kind of lineup they have. And I might be on that train, Paul. I might pick the Blue Jays. You know what? Breaking news on the podcast.
He's doing it.
I am picking the Toronto Blue Jays.
Hit the sounder.
To win this division. But you're right. This is a toss-up. Picking who's the order of 1 through 4th in this division is just as tough as doing that second chance bracket on ESPN.com. So this is going to be tough. It's pretty hard to predict who's going to be 1 through 4 in this division in the exact place. So best of luck doing that. I'm going Blue Jays, Yankees, Red Sox, Rays. As crazy as it is to put the Rays 4th, that team they put out there, it's going to happen eventually.
Okay. And before we get out of here, obviously you kind of mentioned it. Let's predict who we think will be in the World Series and the winners. Do you have an idea who you want for sure to go? Sounds like you kind of do.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you go first.
I'm going Dodgers.
Okay.
And I'm going to go home as a happy man. I'm going Seattle Mariners. Dodgers over the Mariners. I ain't picking them to win it, though.
I think for one of the teams, I'm going to say it's more or less their last probably chance of with the bulk majority of this core still together. And the other team, I think this core stays together for a little bit while longer. Of the AL, I'm going the Houston Astros. Now, of the NL, I'm going the St. Louis Cardinals.
Ooh, I like it.
sorry. Brad Lidge, eat your heart out. I'm going to go St. Louis.
Ooh, you're high on them.
Yep. I don't know if I'm necessarily high on them, but
you like the offense.
Look, it's baseball. Anything can freaking happen. Yeah, I really. Their lineup.
You think Albert Pujols and Yadi and Molina are going to go out as champions?
Yeah.
You like your stories. Yeah. Just like National Beer Day.
Trevor Story. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Anyway, Nick, who you shouting out? Who are you talking to?
A couple sports notes before we get you out of here. What we missed, Kansas won the national championship. Right. Scotty Scheffler's the greatest golfer on the planet right now. Shout out Tiger Woods for playing. Mm-hmm. And big news in the NBA: the Knicks are no longer paying Joakim Noah. And the Lakers are no longer paying Luol Deng, who was the 5th highest player on the Lakers last season. So, shout out to that. And I am shouting out my mom because it's her birthday this week on Thursday. As I say this every year, it is weird to have the same birthday as your mom because it is my birthday on Thursday as well. So, still strange to bring that up to anybody.
Feliz cumpleaños a ti.
I have the same birthday as my mom. So shout out to Kathy Felice.
Shout out Mrs. Felice.
Have a good one. And that is it for me. You can take me off.
Not quite it for you. I mean, you will be off.
Oh yeah, what do you got the news? What's the news in the lacrosse?
Myself and Nate Sharman. Live from Braves Field, 2 o'clock on Saturday for Pena and Canada with Boys Lacrosse. Make sure you tune in on FingerLakes1.com radio. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be.
Are you calling the game?
Gonna be a good one. I will be on the call.
First one.
I will be. No, I will be on the
call. First play-by-play.
Me and Nate have not fully decided yet who's going to be doing play-by-play and who's going to be doing color.
If it is you, are you nervous?
The beauty about me and Nate is we are like Shohei Ohtani. We can be used 2 ways. We're 2-way players.
I was thinking this not to just ramble on.
Sure.
I said I was off the air, but I'm back.
Well, you were still on air. It's no way.
I gotta say, 2 ways. I was thinking this when I was watching the Masters. Do you think there'll ever be? Because some people get stuck behind that tree.
Sure.
And you get in a situation you're like
a 2-way golfer.
Well, it's just when you get behind the tree and you're like, thank God he's right-handed, or thank God he's left-handed because he can hit this ball. Do you think there'll ever be a 2-way golfer?
I think so. I used to putt left-handed.
I know there's only a certain amount of clubs you can have in the bag.
Right.
But if there's certain shots.
Yeah, I mean, I used to putt left-handed. I pretty much go every other way right. So I think it's possible. I mean, why not? I'm sure there probably is somebody somewhere out there that is.
Yeah.
Pat Venditti almost, you know what I mean? I think that would be closer to being like Pat Venditti, who can pitch with both arms.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see it.
I see what you mean, though.
Well, hopefully we see it someday.
Yeah. Anyway, if you guys haven't already, like, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff. I will see everybody, I guess, Saturday. Be sure to tune in, Nick. Maybe we'll get Nick up in the booth. Who knows? And, until then, we'll catch you guys here next Tuesday. See everybody later. Good night.
Just end it.